Welcome to Econ Unplugged. I'm Tanisha.
I'm Hannah. I'm Trisha.
I'm Sia.
We're four friends who talk about what's going on in the economy and why it matters. No buzzwords, no lectures, just a straight up conversation. Today we're talking about the economic impact of hosting the FIFA World Cup. So we know that the World Cup is being currently hosted in USA, Mexico and Canada. And we hear so much about the tourism has increased. There's millions of people traveling there for the World Cup. There's income through various streams because of the World Cup. So what is the real economic impact or the positive economic impact of the World Cup in these countries right now is what I would like to start discussing. So
Okay, so first of all, obviously we have external fans flying into these countries, so that increases your hotel reservations, restaurants, airfare exactly. So there's higher demand for all of these. Even local transport like metro lines and transport basically,
Yeah.
all of these things are higher in demand, and hence it's adding to the national output.
yeah.
So generally, the countries, they have to improve their own infrastructure for the World Cup. So a lot of the citizens are benefiting as well.
So that is a hidden cost of the FIFA World Cup because FIFA has such strict guidelines on countries hosting a World Cup. The host countries have to improve their infrastructure in terms of traveling, that is metro lines, even local infrastructure gets improved. This was seen in Qatar last year, plus it was seen in Manchester, England, where local areas had to get improved because of the existence of a World Cup. So this creates long-term benefits for the citizens.
But then again, them having to rush into it also may have make it bad quality, because then they would have to year on year keep having to maintain it or redo it even. So then that is an added cost. to the
However,
world.
I feel like these things are decided quite in advance. Like now, if you see, they have already planned for the next World Cup.
Yeah, 2035.
But still,
That was already planned for Portugal and Spain to host. So, yeah,
but still having such major projects, if it's not done right by the country themselves, then it could be a
then it's
problem.
a long-term
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah. Another benefit is that so many of these projects like metro lines, train lines get stuck because of federal approval, right? Getting the funding approved by the government. Because it's FIFA World Cup, because it's a compulsory thing, these fundings get directly approved. So this happens quicker than it would have naturally happened in
Correct.
another country where they're not hosting a World
Then
Cup.
that's a problem.
So
Yes.
Qatar literally built a country for the World Cup.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they invested $200+ billion into the
Correct.
World Cup, which boosted a lot of the external economy as well.
Even Qatar was put more on the map than previously.
Correct.
I don't
They
think
were
I really
ready,
knew
yes.
about the country much before.
But also when we talk about tourism, we also have to talk about the circular flow of income that the amount of injections that come into the economy because of the World Cup. One is tourism, second is the hospitality industry,
Yeah.
where hotels are benefited. Also, just neighboring pubs or restaurants hosting the World Cup.
bars, yeah.
Sports bars, yeah.
So since so many fans are international fans, so many people fly in and that actually appreciates the currency of that particular country. It increases the demand of the host country, which then which then is a lower supply of the currency and appreciates whatever
The
country.
value.
Yeah.
Another benefit that comes from the FIFA World Cup is the short-term employment. There's so many new sectors created, so many new jobs just catering around the World Cup, and that benefits the economy as a whole, right?
Yeah, people who need, even with the construction we spoke about, you don't necessarily have to be very skilled. It can be something you learn and you are trained through your work itself. So these kind of, but it's not really that much of a short term. It's more of a year-long
Yeah.
job they would have.
No, it's not even year-long because World Cups are so previously decided on which country.
Correct.
It's a 4-year-long employment that is
So then
created.
that also gives them the skills. They develop those skills and then they can go
They can
into
use that in
industry.
other
Yeah.
opportunities after the World Cup is also over.
And even throughout the run of the World Cup, throughout that period, you're going to hire extra staff to work overtime at pubs and restaurants even in the hospitality sector, you might hire more people to like work at your hotel.
So
and
this over
Management as well.
Yeah. So over time, like the 4 hours, this could reduce the cyclical unemployment in the country during that time.
Also that she mentioned that pubs gain a lot of publicity. That could then, people from that area, they come to know about these sports bars and then they could be frequent customers there.
Yeah.
So then it's really like a very long run benefit. These
Another,
institutions.
yeah.
Whatever.
Another major benefit that may be overlooked is something called the Barcelona effect, which is because for almost a month and a half, the whole world is focusing on your country. Like USA, Mexico, Canada are so much in focus right now, especially USA because so many of the matches are being conducted in that country. But that creates such a political standing in the world.
Yeah.
So we can discuss on that.
But that also brings up the question that, okay, to some extent you are having that kind of global recognition, but is it worth all the costs and liabilities that you are bearing as a country?
Because you feel like it does, right? Because you gain so much political like power
Yeah,
during
because-
that time. Because it's such high stakes. You have so many like renowned players in your country
Yeah.
during that time.
It's also, we see Qatar, like she said, because Qatar was not on the map before. After the World Cup, it is such a thing that, oh, Qatar is the country which hosted the 2022 World Cup, which puts it so much on the map. The tourism of Qatar has increased after because they showcase so many of their infrastructure, so much of their hospitality that was just not known before. Like it was not something that, oh, Qatar is a tourist country.
Yeah.
Like so that is something that gets created after the World Cup.
Also, I feel like specific to the US right now, it's really helping them. Like they are already a developed nation and well recognized, but in light of recent events like the entire war thing that went on, I feel like this really helps refurbish their image in the world and their standing in the world.
But the focus is diverted from like the war and everything
Yeah,
to the World
point.
Cup, right?
Correct.
So now we've talked about how it benefits the country, and which leads us to the multiplier effect, which is because there is investment in tourism, there is creation of employment that leads to other benefits. But it is often exaggerated to a point that is not true. Like officially, the multiplier effect is not to the extent that is mentioned by countries like USA, Mexico, Canada. So let's touch upon that.
Okay. So first of all, I feel like the multiplier effect is a lot connected to opportunity cost, because your opportunity cost is you would have probably built facilities like hospitals, infrastructure, all of that.
You could have invested in the education system.
Education system. So these provide a lot more returns because then you are thinking of long term, you have skilled labor in progress. Whereas putting so much money into building a stadium, you might not get as many returns in like the long term as much you would have got putting into all of
Also,
these facilities.
considering that USA as a country, their healthcare sector does really need that sort of help, because there is so much inflation with prices. Like I think labor or like delivery of a child costs anywhere like $30,000 or something. If I'm not too sure.
Okay, it costs a lot.
It costs a lot,
It is
yeah.
widely known
So
that.
them, instead of hosting a World Cup, instead investing in these sectors which are so crucial and so important, that would maybe have even like more development in the country.
Yeah.
Speaking of like the returns, also the host countries, they don't get the revenue from like the stadium tickets or anything. It all goes to FIFA. So
Yeah,
other than
yeah.
tourism or like people coming into the cities, other than that, like hotel costs, there's not really much revenue generated.
Right. It is not understood that how much of the investment that goes into, or how much of the income that comes from a World Cup goes to FIFA, because streaming rights, even like stadium tickets,
Licensing.
licenses,
They all go to
sponsorships,
FIFA.
all of this money is going to FIFA and not the host countries.
Also, talking about the costs and sort of gains that a host country actually gets. We've seen like some people also criticize the kind of stadiums USA has. Like I remember there was this recent debate where people claimed that USA was using cement under their turf. So that really sparked a lot of enrage among fans who care about their players, their favorite players, who may get injured.
And that is a valid point because USA is not building football specific stadiums, right? It is reusing their NFL and CFL.
Yeah.
MLS.
They must ensure that it is multi-purpose, so they cannot actually invest that much to make it that specialized.
But that is how the problem of opportunity cost is being battled, right? Because creating new, like how Qatar invested $200+ billion dollars into the World Cup, creating new stadiums obviously takes money. So to battle that opportunity cost, they are reusing NFL and MLS league stadiums, which can also later be reused. Because soccer is not as big of a league in the USA as say NFL or NBA, right? So those can get used and the infrastructure around that can get reused in their local leagues. So that is how that gets battled or is a solution.
Weren't they forced to change it into like to meet FIFA's qualifications?
Yes, so FIFA obviously has very strict qualifications on their stadiums, on supporting infrastructure. So they had to modify it, but using existing infrastructure is still cheaper than creating new one. Yeah.
Also, I feel like there's a lot of misconception around how much it's actually benefiting the GDP. Because if you actually go to see the numbers, it's only 0.2%. And that is because, okay, you are saying you are generating $40 billion, but that's not actually the profit. And it's also being split, like if you look at it from a standpoint of the cost of 3 countries hosting it together, the cost is in like tens of trillions of dollars compared to only the 40 billion revenue. So it's only like 10 billion per country.
But also when we talk about GDP, we have to see how much it benefits the local communities, because there is a question of substitution effect, right? Because local businesses, like when a World Cup is being hosted in a certain area, there is increased traffic, there is increased population, there is increased overcrowding. So those local communities that aren't related to the World Cup, their sales get affected. Yeah. So
People will be directing their money towards the World Cup instead of these local.
Correct.
yeah. So again, directing money is the substitution effect, where if there are people going to the World Cup, they won't be watching the local movies or local theatres, going to music shows. So all these creators or these businesses are again affected because of the World Cup being there for a month and a half. So their costs are not as significant as the income, but they are still considered in the total GDP. They're still being hurt.
Also, adding on to Tanisha's point, this really reflects the substitution effect as well as the crowding out effect. Again, as similarly as she said, these bars, because there's so much attention diverted to sports bars and sport-related events and such stuff like fine dining, museums, they lose out on their revenue. And during this 1.5 months, I'm guessing, they really lose out on sales. So then they are negatively impacted.
So what this states is there is no actual new aggregate demand that is created. It is just relocated
It's just
to
a shift.
Yeah, it's a shift. It's not new. Yeah, exactly.
So another economics concept we can link here is the white elephant. Essentially what this means is that during the World Cup, where there is so much demand and focus on certain parts of the US economy, post the World Cup, this all sort of drains when the fans leave, when there is attention on something new now. So then again the GDP fluctuates.
So another effect, we already touched upon this, but to talk about it in detail, is long-term fiscal hangover that occurs because of the World Cup. So yes, USA, Canada, Mexico have reused some of the stadiums, but they still have created a lot of new stadiums, a lot of new infrastructure just for the World Cup, which doesn't get reused. So which is a cost to the economy. So to talk about that. Okay, so that leads to basically operational drain, where these stadiums, they still have to be maintained, like as years come, there still has to be income gone into that, which not the government is not paying, but the taxpayers are paying. Again, country like USA, country like Canada, where soccer or football is not as famous, it won't be occupying that huge stadium again will be such a task, and the getting the income back will be
They
difficult.
to occupy, they don't have the same amount of people.
Yeah.
as they
And again, the
This also has environmental or climate effects because stadiums, they're so like you can't easily sort of break it down again and construct something new. It will take like 10, like almost like 10 years ish in that sort of timeline. So then that construction of the stadium itself, that has so much debris, so many resources are used to create these stadiums, which you will not be using that often.
So one, like something different that Qatar had done is that they built their stadium with 974 shipping containers. So that was like reused in after the World Cup ended. The stadium was deconstructed and those parts were reused and sent to like other countries to develop their sports equipment. A lot of the stadiums were also like cut in half, so the top parts of the stadiums were no longer like a part of it. So it had smaller stadiums that they could still use. And after Qatar even used their stadiums for like different games. They used it for the Asia Cup, the Arab Cup, and the Intercontinental Cup as well. So they had like a full repurpose of it.
So this was the way that this issue was basically battered. Yeah.
But then there's also an opportunity cost, right? Because it's that much, the stadium is huge. So that entire land is occupied. Where instead they could have made like maybe something as like a school or like a mall or something for the local community. So then that is sort of traded off.
And also, it's like neither here nor there. Now that they have remodeled their existing NFL stadiums, it's not fully usable by the football. Like it won't really be used for football anymore, and it's also not fully operational for the NFL stadiums as well, because it's not like it's affecting the players and their ability to play well, because it's not exactly designed now custom for their sport either. So that will probably increase cost to redo it again or build a new stadium for their local sport.
So it's more of an inconvenience.
Yeah.
Like in the short term for upcoming games.
There's so much talk about the $40 million economic boom from the 2026 World Cup. But if the actual GDP improvement is only 0.2%, why are countries actually fighting and bidding for this World Cup to happen in the country? Which comes up as a question because we've talked about so many negatives where the financial gain is essentially close to zero.
So then I guess that's really the benefits that aren't on paper.
Yeah.
It's like non-monetary, you can't classify
It's more
it with
behavioral
money.
economic
Yeah.
benefits.
So then Americans have that pride that their country is able to host this major event that happens once in 4 years.
Yeah, there is a social cohesion, there is positive impact, a positive view of your country. Like currently USA was under scrutiny because of so many things. So now it creates a positive impact where, now there's a World Cup going on in there.
And then I guess even the atmosphere in the country itself must be so like positive, and you really have that dignity in it.
Yeah.
Also, it's political power, political standing, having that image about your country. It's also about rebranding, I feel, or like a lot of globalization also happens. So MNCs can then settle into this country, and it's just helping a lot of the local economies as well, because exchange of.
Another thing is the winner's curse, right? Like once you win the bid, you want to do well. It's a thing of pride that
go all out.
yes, like my country has won this bid, my country is hosting the World Cup. Also, it's a civic pride for the people because sports is such an inherent thing for people that we want our country to win the World Cup. Like maybe in India we can relate it to cricket. Like when we had the World Cup in India, everyone was very excited for it. Yeah, everyone was watching. Everyone wanted their country to win.
And also for the players, I feel like to some extent when you are on your home ground, you do feel that sense of, like
Right.
somewhere you play better because you have that comfort. You're not traveling all the time.
No.
You don't have that recovery or setting in time.
The crowd itself is also
If we are
yours,
supporting
people.
you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how such things can't be quantifiable.
Yeah.
Like any like behavioral benefits can't be quantified against the financial gains or non-existent gains in this.
The goal isn't always maximizing profit
Yeah.
in these countries.
Also, another thing that comes up in this, the actual people that bid for the World Cup, which is governing bodies, are not the ones paying for it. So, all the costs that we talk about, a lot of them or most of them fall on the taxpayers in the local communities. So, them not having a choice of whether my country hosts a World Cup or not should be questioned because they're the one paying the cost.
So they essentially are under the impression that the money they pay out to the government is used to improve their community and it should affect them directly. As in, like, as we stated before, better education, better healthcare, better roads. So then that instead being directed towards an event,
Yeah.
which some people may not be into sports.
So also when governing bodies vote for it, they are kind of past the point of economic rationality where they want political dominance over other countries as well. It becomes a competition, right? Like my country is hosted it, USA has hosted it, but India hasn't. Why is India falling back in this area? So even that somehow is a problem where the concept of principal agent problem comes up. So to summarize what we talked about today, we talked about the benefits of a World Cup in the economy, like short-term employment, tourism benefits, hospitality industry gets boosted, even the local infrastructure has to be built according to FIFA standards. But on the other hand, there's a lot of negatives that come up with the World Cup, like the opportunity cost of investing in new stadiums, the long-term maintenance of stadiums, the overall investment and the actual gains that come out of the World Cup, where a lot of them go to the FIFA institution instead of the actual host country. But again, we talked about why do countries actually bid for a World Cup then? The effects of social cohesion, civic pride, which can't be quantified against financial gains, also come into question. Again, the question of the people bidding for the World Cup are not actually the people paying for it is also a major issue that comes up with hosting a World Cup. That's all from Econ Unplugged. We'll plug back in next time.
Bye.